The FIFA Club World Cup journey ends tonight. Well, let's go back to the studio and we'll hear the thoughts of Nicky, of Andy and of Natalie.
Welcome back to Matchday Live, where City have gone out of the Club World Cup beaten by Al Hilal in a, wow, end-to-end game. It's 4:45 in the morning here in the UK. I mean, and that was certainly 120 minutes of football that would have kept anybody awake. Although it has, of course, ended in heartbreak. Although immediately I offer you the good news that there is 6.5 weeks until the Premier League starts. So a good old holiday is most certainly on the cards for this squad and, of course, the coaching staff and Pep as well. Still joined by Nicky Weaver and by Andy Morrison. We're a little bit somewhat in shock here, aren't we, gents? Because from where we were at half-time, where we all believed that City could have been 3 or 4-0 up, to where we are now, oh, Nick, I'm a bit flabbergasted.
Yeah, we can't believe how the game's unfolded at half-time. You know, we were sort of singing the praises of City, saying they perhaps should have been 1 or 2 more goals further in front. Ultimately, that proved critical. And yeah, you know, it was a first half there, they missed chances, and then the second half they come out like an express train, and before we knew it, we're 2-1 down. And although we got back into the game, we never really got back into the game in terms of dominating like we did, and that soft underbelly that we had at times last year sort of reared its ugly head again tonight, and they looked really dangerous every time they went forward. So yeah, we certainly didn't see it coming at half-time. Great game for the neutral to watch. I'm not sure if there'll be many neutrals watching it at this time of night, but yeah, just, you know, disappointment, because I think this, you know, how well we'd played and the Juventus, you know, how everything went well that game, and to go from that to sort of losing against a team that everyone expected us to walk over, including myself and Andy. Yeah, real disappointment. Yeah, they just in the studio, it was very flat when, you know, when that 4th goal went in.
1-0 up at half-time, City looking completely dominant. But we spoke before the game, Andy, about Inzaghi, about his the way that he has played against City in the past, about his skill and talent as a manager. What did you think he said to that team? What did he change at half-time? Because they looked like 2 different teams.
Well, he obviously creates a belief and has a way of playing, you know, when he installs that in the players. And, you know, even though they were 1-0 down and there was chances, they're still in the game. But it's the most disappointing thing is the way we started the second half. You can't start that flat. You know, it's just 2 turnovers in possession, and before you know it, we're 2-1 down. And that can't happen. Again, as we just said, that's a reflection of Sporting Lisbon, where we dominated them, we battered them. We come out 2 or 3 minutes later, we're 2-1 down. So that's really disappointing. And in relation to the amount of shots that they had, you know, they probably had a 60% success rate. You know, so yeah, that's going to be disappointing. But listen, we're disappointed in here, but there's nobody going to be more disappointed than the players. You could see it, you know, how desperate they were to do well, and nobody saw that coming. And you know, conceding 4 goals against that shouldn't happen. Because it was too easy for them to score the 4th goal. You know, unopposed crosses, people not marked in the box, headers, then picking up the second phase. So yeah, really disappointing.
In terms of the start of that second half, you said how well Al Hilal came out. I mean, in terms of the goals, they scored within the first minute of that second half to make it 1-1. Leonardo, they then scored about 6 or 7 minutes later to make it 2-1. Of course, then City got 2-2 with Haaland equaliser 3 minutes after that. We were 3 goals in the first 10 minutes of the second half, and I think it hit us all, Nick. This is a different game now.
Yeah, but that's when it becomes dangerous for City, when it goes end-to-end and it becomes like a basketball match. That's when we look vulnerable. We look good when we're controlling the game and limiting the time they've got on the ball. And we just turned over possession too easy. And, you know, we had a triple substitution on, I think, 53 minutes to counteract what they were sort of doing, to try and sort of get a bit of control back in the game. And whenever we saw it many times last year when they went on that bad run, if we lose, if the game goes end-to-end, we lose that control, and then we look really vulnerable, and we look vulnerable tonight. You know, they had some really good situations where slightly better final ball, you know, could have cost another goal or 2. But yeah, you listen, like Andy said, bitterly disappointed. I think everyone went into the game almost overconfident, think, yeah, you know, we'll win this, and we've got Fluminense. You could sort of plan your route to the final, couldn't you? But ultimately, you've got to beat what's in front of you. We couldn't do that tonight. You know, like Malcolm's goal, fantastic finish. They got some really dangerous players, and when they got the counter, they were, you know, they were direct. And Koulibaly at the back was absolutely sensational tonight. It was like a magnet. Everything was hitting him. He was getting blocks in. You know, for someone at 34 years of age to play in that heat, you know, it was magnificent, and the goalkeeper was as well.
Yeah, I think we did go into the game, certainly at half-time, went into the second half feeling really confident. But I think we had good reason to, Andy, given the performance that we'd seen in the Juventus game, which was one of probably the best performance I'd seen from City this year. Yeah. It felt like we had every right to go into this game with that level of confidence. What happened? You know,
football never ceases to amaze you, does it? You know, it just chucks up these events. I mean, to concede on 46 and then, you know, they've not even had to work their way through us and pin us in and have us under pressure. It's from our own corner. And the ball drops on the edge of the box. Cancelo does brilliant because it's so easy to lash the ball, then you give it away. But he's controlled it, he's moved it, and he's played a wonderful ball with the outside of his right foot. And, you know, whatever the setup is to defend that corner, we can't be left exposed by a ball that comes out, we go back in and then we get done. You know, however you set your team up, there's got to be, whether it's a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2, to counter that, because, you know, that's and we were always chasing after that, back into 2-2, then 3-2, and then 3-3, and you think they're going to try and hold on for penalties, and ultimately, like, you know, it's so sloppy, the goal, and so disappointing, because again it's an unopposed cross into our box and it's a free header, nobody near, and you know, they'll be incredibly disappointed, but there'll be so much to learn from it, you know. But we don't want to learn and be losers, you know. It's not in the DNA of this football club, you know. It's to get further on, and especially when we saw how it went today earlier on, you expect to turn up tonight, especially with how good we've been in it. Football, it's incredible.
If I'm trying to look for some positives from the game today, City's third goal came to Phil Foden, his 100th career goal as a Manchester City player. And of course, the ball itself from Cherky and the build-up to it, Nick. I mean, the ball and then the volley finish from Phil Foden, I mean, that was the standout moment of the game for me from a City perspective. Yeah,
and, you know, it's great for him to get his 100. We had to wait a little while. We thought it would perhaps come before the end of the last season. And yeah, but it was 2 subs combined. Great ball in to get the angle and to drop it over Koulibaly's head onto his left foot was perfect. And he still had a lot to do because it was a tight angle and it's a real controlled finish under pressure. And when that went in, you sort of expected, you know, us to maybe go on and get a, you know, win. Like Andy said, they were probably hoping for penalties. But yeah, so you can't think of many positives now, but that is a positive, and he's had a positive tournament for sure. And hopefully, you know, with the start he's had to the tournament he's had, that'll then go into the start of the season, and we can get the Phil Foden that we know, that we saw a couple of years ago. Because last year he wasn't quite, there was something just not right with him. So hopefully he can kick on this year and show us the player that we all know he is. But yeah, it's just really disappointing at the minute to try and get the positives out of it.
I think the ball from Cherky, I think we've seen there's been 2 or 3 assists. You know, when we're worrying about, you know, De Bruyne, who's going to be the person that's going to be able to unlock the defence, who's going to play that, you know, just that bit of magic and inventive. And you know, and he's shown that in this tournament, that he is somebody that, like, you know, when they do go into a deep block, he can pick the lock. You know, he will be able to find something magical. So that's a positive.
I think as well, you know, the other new players as well, they've played in games where they're not pre-season friendlies, they've been proper competitive games. So I think in the long run, in terms of going into the season, you know, having them players bedded in nice and early can only be a good thing going forward.
And I say this finally with the absolute most respect to Al Hilal and to the Club World Cup and to all the teams that are in the Club World Cup. I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't want to win it. Now we were in it. And after that Juventus game, did I already have the trophy in my eyes? Probably. I really did want to win it. But we know how packed the football schedule is. So my final positive for it is 6.5 weeks now until the Premier League. They're actually going to get a holiday.
Yeah, and it'll be nice for them to have a little break. Listen, you can see how gutted they were, but they will like a little. I'm sure they'll get, you know, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks now to sort of recharge the battery, especially the international players, because they've just had no break. And yeah, listen, Pep's not going to be judged on this World Cup. He'll be judged on the Premier League next year and the Champions League. So the best thing about football is always another game. The next competitive one, 6.5 weeks, but it'll be here before we know it. Yeah, and it's been I've really enjoyed watching him in this tournament. I'm just gutted that we've not gone one step further. And
Same.
you know, I really thought after the Juventus game, like yourself, I did think we had a route to the final, didn't we? But not to be. And you know, we've got bigger fish to fry.
Thank you very much for your company, Nicky Weaver. Thank you very much, Andy Morrison. It's 5-5. We did well. Thank you. And thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on Matchday Live this evening and throughout the Club World Cup as well. We very much enjoyed your company. You now have 6.5 weeks. Relax, chill, switch off, at least for a couple of weeks, because, of course, between now and then you have the Women's Euros to enjoy, and there is a host of Manchester City stars taking part in the Women's Euros as well. So you can now concentrate on that before the Premier League is back. Of course, we play Wolves away on the 16th of August, and we very much look forward to seeing you then. So enjoy your summer break, and we will all see you in 6.5 weeks.